Everybody, Frank from Aborigine Reptiles here to talk to you about arguably one of the most important things when keeping a reptile or amphibian, and that is their diet. We're not going to get into any specific type of diet, but one thing we're going to talk about today is the most important, and that is gut loading. What it is, how you can do it, and why it's so important. So today we're going to walk through and talk about each individual topic around gut loading. We'll start off by talking about the two different types of gut loading that you would see. Also, we're going to get into a quick, simple recipe that we use here to maintain our large collection of animals, all different types. And then what we'll do is what you can do at home when you're having, if you're keeping just a few reptiles, maybe one or two, or even a medium collection, or even if you're a large breeder, why it's so important to maintain your food stock and make sure that it has everything it needs. So let's get into the first part of this, and we're going to start with what is gut loading. So gut loading is basically what it sounds like. You're loading the gut of a feeder animal to make sure that it has all of the vitamins, minerals, and nutrition that it needs to pass that along to your reptile. So insects, rodents eat a wide variety of foods and fruits, vegetables, grains, you name it, in the wild. So when an animal then consumes that insect and or rodent, it gets the nutrition directly from it. So we want to replicate that as close to as possible in captivity. How do we do that? We take a wide variety of different types of feed that we can then give to our insects, and or if you breed your own rodents or know someone who keeps rodents for you and you buy from them, you could give them this. But it is a gut load recipe. So we keep it really simple here. There's two different types of gut loads. There is a dry type and then there is a wet type. We recommend obviously using a combination of the two. The dry type is a mix of different types of grains. We'll go through a little bit more in detail here when I show you the actual making of our gut load. And then there's the wet type. And the wet type is where the insects and or rodents get their moisture from. We don't use any type of water vessel or gels or anything of that nature with our insect colonies here. It's just messy. It's an added cost. It doesn't really do much more than keep the humidity up in those enclosures, which we just do a light spraying a couple times a week anyway to keep that up. But what providing fruits and vegetables allows them to go right for that moisture, eat all of it, get all of the nutrients from the fruits and vegetables, and then also get the moisture and all of the water that they require. So those are the two different types. Again, we'll cut over and show how we handle those and how we make those in this part of the video. So when we're talking about gut loads, we're breaking into two components, a dry component and a wet component. So our dry component is a mix of things. So it's based largely on what you would see insects and rodents eating in the wild. So what we have here is a dry, high quality, organic, if you can, rabbit food. This is a mix of alfalfa, timothy hay, clover, a wide variety of grasses found throughout different places on Earth. And it's compressed in a nice simple form. It also has some vitamins and minerals. Nothing too crazy though. They try to keep it pretty natural. This is chicken feed, an organic, very important to get an all organic, soy-free chicken feed. Something that insects and rodents eat in the wild is grains. And this is largely it has a lot of wheat, red winter wheat, corn, a lot of other types of grains that you'd find in there, as well as some minerals, some calcium and some minerals. So I'd like to find a nice organic, soy-free layer feed. This has a good amount of calcium in it, but nothing that would be outside the realm of something that a reptile could consume. Then we have a nice organic rolled oats, anything you like there. I like to use the rolled oats. Don't use steel cut because they don't really blend down well. And then this is a bee pollen powder. You can get the bee pollen granules. I just find that when you buy the powder, you get a lot more for your money. Again, this is also organic, so I try to make sure that all the dry components are organic. We'll take all of this and put it into a blender. Vitamix, Ninja, whatever you have, make into a fine granular powder, which I'll show you in a minute, and then we'll show you how crazy the roaches go for this mix. But that is the dry component. When we talk about a wet component, what we were trying to focus into, and this is just an example of the types of ways you can hydrate your insects for gut loading at the same time. So this, we have some sweet potatoes, some baby carrots, you can use regular carrots, a mix of greens, and then citrus fruit. Typically, an orange is the most relished by our roaches. This is just an example. You can use any type of organic. Always try to use organic so there's no pesticides used on the fruit or vegetables for the insects to consume. This provides hydration, so they will go to it as a food source, but also a hydration source. We don't typically put a water source in any of our insects enclosures just because of that. This way they will gravitate and consume this for hydration, but they'll also get a lot of great beta carotene, vitamins, minerals, all the things that, again, you would see them get in nature. So when you combine the two of these, both a dry component and a wet component, you have a pretty well stocked animal that will be very nutritious and nutritionally complete for your reptile. Once you then dust them with a calcium and vitamin supplement, this will be in their gut, so they'll get a nice full meal. So we're going to take these. I'm going to blend this up here, and then we'll show you how much the roaches like that. And we'll also throw in some of the wet ingredients, and you can see how quickly they go after it. How these roaches go crazy for it. It's a great mix of food for them. They devour this stuff, and I'll tell you, in less than 10 minutes, I came back to that pile of food that was there, and it was gone. So that means our colony is well fed. They've all had a chance to eat their fill of both wet and dry. They've been hydrated, and they've also been fed a highly nutritious diet. So this will allow them to procreate, because it is a breeding colony. So we do like to make sure that we have a constant supply of food here at Aborigine Reptiles. So they will procreate because they'll have all the vitamins, minerals, and proteins they need to do that. But also they will grow, and they will pass that nutrient on to our animals when we're feeding them throughout the week. So it's a win-win-win for us here when handling a large colony of roaches. Our dubia roaches like it just as much as those lobster roaches, and they will scarf it right down. You can also use that same recipe for mealworms. If you use mealworms as a treat or a staple for any of your animals, they take to it just as well. Just make sure to put a little piece of sweet potato or carrot in there with them as also. And then you're good to go. This will work for superworms. It'll work for mealworms. It'll work for dubia roaches, lobster roaches, crickets, if you use crickets. You will go to the pet store and you will see tons of marketing for gut load, high calcium gut load, gut loaded gels, all-in-ones, and those may seem very appealing to you. But I equate those basically to the equivalent of like a McDonald's junk food. They're typically all one or two ingredients, corn, soy based or wheat based, really cheap ingredients. You're paying a decent penny for them, anywhere from $5 to $15 for some of those. And the animals will eat it. They will like it because of what it is, just like we eat McDonald's because we like it and it's delicious. But the reality of it is the nutritional content's just not there. The gels also are just water. You're paying for water with a little bit of food coloring dye and some calcium in there. If you supplement your reptiles like you should with a calcium or vitamin supplement, that's all the calcium they're going to need. Putting more calcium into the food that you're feeding as a gut load is just a little bit too much. As I talked about, the the chicken feed and the rabbit food all have natural levels of actual calcium in it that your animals will consume, and that's more than enough. So on top of that, when your supplementation, if you're doing that throughout the week, that will be more than enough for what you're trying to achieve. The other ones that you may see out there, if you've heard people use, is cat or dog food for their roaches. That's fine if you really want to use that. I just kind of stay away from it because it is a meat-based product with a lot of animal byproducts in it. And depending on what type of dog food or cat food you use, there may be a lot of artificial colors and vitamins and things in there that you're really not into. Animals, most roaches and crickets and rodents don't typically eat a meat-based diet. I'm sure they scavenge here and there, but they don't eat a meat-based diet in the wild or in nature. So I try to mimic what I can from that standpoint. Also, the protein content is very, very high, which is great for growing roaches and growing things quickly and reproduction. But in terms of long-term maintenance or feeding them off to your other animals, you're going to take that protein and create a much higher level protein gut-loaded animal, which can cause long-term side effects for some of your animals that might not be able to tolerate that high level. So again, some people use it if they've had success. Good for them. I just typically have not used any type of cat or dog food based when gut loading. I'm sure it's easy. It's simple. It's there. You can go get a high quality version, but it's still a meat based food. So what you can do to gut load animals when you have them, if you're just a hobbyist, or maybe you have one animal, maybe you have 50 animals, get yourself one of those simple critter keepers or any other type of container that you keep your animals in. Maybe you don't keep them, you just feed them out all at once. This is your opportunity to try it. Get one of the little critter keepers, put some egg crates in there or whatever they give you at the pet store, or you can get some yourself. Some crumpled up cardboard paper also works. And then just put a little bit of the gut load recipe that we talked about here into the corner, and a fruit or vegetable slice over in the other corner. And that's all you really got to do. And then give the animals anywhere from 12 to 24 hours to consume, and then feed out. That is the best amount of time for them to really all get access to the different types of gut loading, eat it, fill their guts up. They get nice and fat and juicy, which is gross if I think about it, because I would never want to eat one of those. But, they look really good for the reptiles, so that's what we're focusing on. So let them then take them out, shake them up with your calcium and vitamin mixture, and then feed them away. You're then providing your animal the absolute best quality nutrition that you can as a caregiver. So that is crucial. You'll see a dramatic difference. I am telling you, from when I started keeping reptiles 20 years ago, I was the kid who went to the pet store, got the crickets in the bag, brought them home, and just shook them out and fed everybody, and they just ate it, and that was it. And they did fine. They lived, some didn't live as long as they probably should have, looking back. But the crickets stayed in the enclosures, and as they digest, they poop out what they last ate at the pet store. And a lot of the pet stores back in the day used to use fish food as a cheap, simple gut load, or just to keep the animals alive. Again, fish food, same thing as the cat and dog food, meat-based. It's fish-based. So not a huge fan of that. A lot of colors and additives to those as well. But yeah, they would feed them that. They give them some potato, which has some limited nutrients in it, and you'd bring that home, feed it to your animals. If the animals didn't eat the crickets, they would sit in the cage, they'd defecate all the food out, and they'd become empty, basically exoskeletons running around for your animal to eat. So try to make sure to think ahead, buy a food container, buy enough that you're going to be able to put them in there, let them eat some good, nutritious food, and then feed them out a few at a time, just what your animal can eat in one sitting, and I guarantee you'll see a dramatic difference in growth, vitality, colors, you name it. You'll see it with it when you approach it like this. If you're trying to breed reptiles, this is a critical step in terms of providing the ultimate nutrition, especially for any breeding females of any type of lizard, snake, amphibian. Any type of animal will benefit from this. Now, you don't have to make the recipe exactly how I did it. That's just what we use. You can use any variant of those, and I guarantee you it's going to be better than what you're doing right now or what you're not doing. So if you want to just go get a small little bag of the chicken food, organic always, soy-free if possible, and mix it with some high quality rabbit food that you get at the store, or order bee pollen granules online. Go through Amazon or any of those sites, you can get it really cheap. Mix those in. That usually attracts them a lot, is that bee pollen, because it obviously has a sweet flavor. So yeah, mixing that in, but don't put any minerals or calcium or vitamins. It's easy and tempting to do, but don't do it. Leave that for dusting, and that's a whole nother segment when we talk about supplements and minerals. So we'll get into that in another video. But for this, do what you can with it. Fruits and vegetables are always in season. Just make sure that you try to get organic, because you don't want those pesticides, because those pesticides are meant to kill insects. So if you're feeding insects foods with lots of pesticides, you get the picture. It could be pretty ugly. Also, they can carry over to your reptiles, and we don't want that. So yeah, next time you think about getting some food for your lizard, your arachnid, your frog, even your snake, if you have access to, if you're breeding your own mice and rats, take a break from that bagged, rodent chow and mix it up a little bit. Give them something different. They'll totally appreciate it, I'm sure, and scarf it down. But it'll give your snake or any other animal that's eating any type of rodent a big boost in what its nutritional content is. So next time, try it out, give it a try, and I guarantee you're going to see long-term effects that you'll be very happy, and I guarantee your animal will be super happy. So hopefully this was helpful, and stay tuned for more videos in the near future. Thanks, guys. See you later.